Morning, everyone. I have Bret Shuford with me, and I'm so excited. We're almost forgetting to come live because I was having so much fun talking to him. Um, he is a working actor and the Broadway Life Coach. Um, and sometimes I do this that I read this lengthy bio, and to be honest with you, I just love what's going on behind you. I know it's just like a lot of, like, I see one of my most favorite shows, Wicked. I think it's probably a lot of people's favorite shows, but, and I won't list my favorite shows because I'm going to ask you, I'll give you time to think about it, what your favorite show is. It's like probably trying to pick one of your, right, your
Yeah.
favorite pet, your favorite,
Yeah.
but I'm going to, instead of reading your bio out of a playbill or your headshot, I want you to tell me who you are. And you're standing there in the chorus line. Who are you?
First
It's a
off,
casting, it's a casting call.
just the fact that you know all of these references makes me so
Well,
happy. So,
I told you offline, like this is like a dream come true. I sometimes talk to business coaches and life coaches, and I go, great, it's therapy. For me, this is just like maybe we could just go show after show and talk about it, but no, who is Brad?
well, so thank you. I'm really excited to be here. I grew up in Southeast Texas, but I was a kid who had a vision very young. You were telling me about your daughter wanting to tap very early. I wanted to sing and dance very early in my life and had a vision of moving to New York and being on Broadway, even though I'd only seen it in movies. And I did that. I moved to New York. I graduated college there, and I started working professionally during college. Got my equity card, and then my first Broadway show was Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, and then I did Beauty and the Beast on Broadway. I originated the Broadway cast of The Little Mermaid. I also originated Amazing Grace. I also originated a show called Paramore, which was Cirque du Soleil's first musical. And then, literally right before the shutdown, I joined the Broadway cast of Wicked. And in between all of that, I've done TV and film work. Like I was in the movie The Wolf of Wall Street and Law and Order SVU and The Good Fight and different TV shows as well. So I've been able to be a full-time working actor.
Working actor, which
Yeah.
anybody listening, like this is the dream that every mother, as I said to you, this is it. This is the dream, like hope for your kid. And as the kid growing up, when you're watching, you're a working actor.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
and I've been very
that's
lucky along the way because I'm just very creative in my mind. I'm, definitely diagnosed ADHD young, so I have a lot of um, ideas and visions, and so along the way, I've built a big social media following. My husband and I met. He was a principal dancer for New York City Ballet, and then danced subsequently on Broadway. And we started an account called Broadway Husbands, and we now have almost 60,000 followers on that account, and we have a podcast, and so we do that, and I've directed and choreographed. But most importantly, I became a certified life coach in 2009 and started a side business as a coach that actually during the pandemic turned into a full-time business, and I'm
mhm.
super super grateful for it.
When someone says to me they're a life coach, I immediately like to distinguish what that means for anyone listening and who would look you up to be a
Mm.
client
Yeah.
for you.
So, I mean, I'm sure you've heard this before, but I think of a life coach as someone who different from a therapist who helps you kind of analyze and look at what's affecting you from the past and what's sort of getting in your way now. We kind of look at your future and like how do we map out a plan for you. And sometimes that does look at your blocks and look at limiting beliefs and but getting really clear on values and getting clear on goals and being held accountable along the way.
Mhm.
That's really what I do. And what's interesting is I started primarily, like I said, I called myself and branded myself the Broadway Life Coach, but now I'm working with people who are, hosts and directors and composers. And I was always working with actors and singers and dancers and people who wanted to be on Broadway. And now I've really ventured into more creative spaces, entrepreneurs. Right now I'm launching my first course, and I'm working with people who are painters and sculptors and people who want to get their creativity out in the world in a way. It's like, because of my social media expertise, it's like helping them figure out a way to do it where they don't feel gross and icky, and it feels authentic. And it's
Right.
not about sales, it's about building a real authentic audience, because I think that's what I've been able to do, and learn to do on stage, is how do you get an audience to come with you? And I think that really unique perspective is something that can apply to business. And I just don't see anybody really teaching that.
Well, I think I always do research. I don't just, I don't think I'm good enough to just wing these interviews, and nor do I want to, nor do I think it's fair to someone I'm interviewing. So I do research. So I had fun on your website, and one of the things I loved is and why I told you, I said to my daughter, please go look, because you are starting these workshops. I mean, I think you're calling them a workshop, if I recall.
Hmm.
Um, and I love that because, one, you can kind of be a client in this life coaching, but you also can get a taste of sort of diving in and doing a workshop with you. So there's, different elements of how to work with you.
Yeah.
But I do like that authentic voice. I always say, if you work with me, if I'm your publicist, you're going to get what you're going to get. Like, I'm going to be honest. I am who I am. If I tried to be someone else, that would be a real mess.
Totally.
But I love what you just said, that, as being an actor, when you're on a stage, the best performances are when you're just lifted out of you're just really pulled it out of your seat. I think about, Wicked. I mean, when I mean, that show, I've seen it 5 times, to be perfectly honest. Um, and there's certain shows I just will continue to see over and over. There are some shows, I'll be honest, I have seen over and over, and I just don't need to see. I'm okay with Les Mis and Phantom, just not seeing again and again. I have seen again and again, and I'm okay for a while. But you are catapulted out of your, it's the music, but it's also the actor. Like, you could be in these huge theaters in their eyes. And I think you're right in, when you're working with someone, a painter, an insurance person, they have to relate to their customer with us, with that authentic voice. Um, so you started this in the pandemic. So your clients you've always been on Zoom with them, correct?
I was always on Zoom. I mean, I was coaching privately before the pandemic, and it was
Mm-hmm.
always on Zoom for the last, I don't know, 5 to 10 years. I mean, I feel like it's been. I mean, even before that, I think it was on the phone. So Zoom was always. So that wasn't like a new thing. When everyone's like Zoom, I was like,
Yeah,
yeah, I've been
it
using it for
works.
years.
Yeah, and I find, look, I love to talk to people about that, because I think going forward, this is going to be part of our existence. We're gonna,
Totally.
I hope to meet you one day, and I say that, but yet I think the way to stay in touch with people is this way. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, I
um,
agree.
what what's an so we talked about like an ideal client, but what what are you hearing from your clients? What's the I know you have different types, but what's their whole, like, what's holding them back? And that's a big, broad statement, but
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of, well, the term I use, because it's kind of trendy right now, is imposter syndrome, but it's
here,
self-doubt.
Yeah, I
right?
keep hearing that is a is that going to be the new like I've adapted? Is that
It's trending, who knows, but there'll be some other word next month,
yeah.
um but it is real. I mean, I think it is real for a lot of people who want to create content, and I think that's really the challenge here. So much of what I the people I've worked with are theater people, and theater people are kind of analog. They love a physical experience. They love
Hmm.
to be immersed in a collaborative room with people, and then the shutdown happened and there was no opportunity to do that, and there was so many people who were like, I don't know how to function
Hmm.
if I can't show up at an audition, if I can't show up to rehearsal, or if I can't be in the room with people to do this. The Zoom thing was just, there was such a detachment for them. And then also, how do they build a presence and become known online? They just didn't know how to do that. And so many people were getting stuck because they're comparing themselves to what other people are doing. They're comparing themselves to people who've been doing it longer than them. They look at, so a lot of it has been how to help people move through the doubt and the stuff going on up here, to
So I have to
start.
stop you. I have to
Yeah,
ask you because,
yeah.
as I shared with you, my daughter starting out actress. You're working with maybe starting out to someone like yourself, a very acclaimed working actor. We're in the middle of very little work out there for, I mean, I have a client right now. We signed a movie deal. The movie is not happening. I mean, it's not. I mean, and as you know, one of my favorite shows, they're putting the masks on. So it's we're in this whole new world of how to do production and how to get back to the theater come September. Really? Broadway's going to open in September. I mean, I pray every day. I get my broadwayworld.com. I mean, I pray every day. But, how do you get inside the mind, and not just of those Broadway actors and directors, but the everyday human, to say like it's going to be okay?
Well, I mean, you first off, I can
Because we
I
don't
I
know.
can only speak from my experience, right? I mean, I graduated college 2001. 3 months later, September 11th happened. We thought the world was ending.
And
We
here you
thought
are in New York.
Broadway
Yeah.
was never going to recoup.
Yeah.
Broadway has come back stronger and stronger than ever. It will come back. So it's just about, if it's just about helping people continue to reinstate their vision. Like I said, like I knew at 6 I wanted to be on Broadway, and every single day I spent time daydreaming and envisioning myself doing that. That is how it happened. It was by continuing to reinstate the vision of what I want. And I think that that's one of the biggest things that I always find when people come to me, is they've not taken enough time to get clear about the vision for their life. They don't really know why they want to do it. They're just like, I want to be on Broadway. And they haven't really taken the time to go, what does that look like? What does it look like to walk out of the stage door? What are you doing before you go to the show? How are
Mhm.
you, like, what are your strengths? What are the things you love to do? Who are the people you love to surround yourself with? Visioning the whole
Right.
life around it, because I think that if every day you spend time imagining that happening, and that's what you really really want. And sometimes people realize when they do that, they don't even want to be in New York City. Sometimes they realize, oh my gosh, I walked out the stage door and I was in Detroit. Just saying. But like, the more time you get really
Walk out
close.
into an alley, be right by a parking lot, just FYI. Just saying.
But
Do
I
you
just,
believe in this statement? And I'll tell you why I asked.
yeah.
If you can envision yourself doing something else, you should do it.
I mean, I don't know that that's, when I hear that statement, I feel like it always comes in kind of a derogatory form, in that it is saying, it is meant as a way to discourage creatives.
Do,
And I
do
think,
you know where it came from, right?
no,
I
I
mean,
mean,
was that
I've
ever,
heard it.
and was that ever said to you during your years at?
I never heard it until later, and I hear it from people all the time, professionals
Yeah.
all the time, right?
Yeah.
And I do think that there is something to it. If you can envision yourself doing something else, because it really, to me, I think it really is about your vision. Like when
Mhm.
you sit down and take the time and get clear of where you see yourself,
Mhm.
I think sometimes we get hung up on dreams. Like we see a dream at 6 years old or 7 years old, um, and we don't. We think I have to hold on to this thing and make it happen when we don't actually allow ourselves to let the vision evolve. Sometimes it evolves. You can be a professional working actor in Minneapolis and Seattle and
Mhm.
Florida and Houston. I mean, there's a lot of places you don't have to be on Broadway. And I think there's this thing that people think, oh, I have to love New York City in order to be a working actor. I have to love Los Angeles. It's like, no, if you have the drive and the vision, you really want it, then
Mhm.
that I think that's really getting specific. Like if I was directing you as a director, as an actor, I would want you to be really specific about who your character is. The
Mhm.
same is true about your life.
I love that. And I knew you would understand that, but it's interesting because I think that young kids today are told that, and not just in their um, schooling as an actor or production. I was told that in one of my classes in a different way. My father always reminds me of that when he's complimenting me. And it went something like this. I was in a production class, and the professor said, "Look to your right, look to your left." When you do that, the person sitting next to you won't get a job when they graduate in production. And I remember, and I say it like this, and I said to my dad when I heard that day, I said, I looked straight ahead. I didn't really care who was looking at me, and I didn't care to look at somebody else and wish upon them anything like that. I thought, back then I was 18 or 19 at the time. And I thought, I thought right away, what a horrible statement. I'm wishing someone in both directions, to fail, and they're looking at me to fail. And I remember looking straight ahead at this professor going, one, I'm never going to take his class again. I got to get through this semester. And, and
Yeah.
two, I just thought, screw this. I'm going to do what I got to do, you know, I know that my kids have been sort of, you know, told that. And I sort of feel like sometimes I have to undo that, in that you have to have dreams, you have to look and know that what you're looking at can shift,
Yeah.
and that's, you know, you have to be ready for the shift, um, and how that shift.
I just I think it's just not as black and white as people want it to seem. And from my experience, if you want something bad enough, if it's that clear in your mind of what you want, then it might take a lot more work than you thought to get it,
Mhm.
but it is 100% possible. And I've seen it to be true in my own life. And I think that one of the things that I love to talk about with performers is this thing called the cycle of fear. We've all been bought into this cycle of fear that our culture and society like has taught us that you're going to go to New York, it's going to be really hard, you're going to struggle, you're going to face rejection. So guess what? You get what you think, right? You don't get what
Mhm.
you want. You get what you think. So you show up in New York and you're like, oh, here comes the rejection, here comes the
Mhm.
struggle, here comes the frustration and all that stuff. So you get exactly what you expected. And then, what happens? Those people feel so rejected and resentful and mad that it didn't happen. They get jobs teaching. And guess what they're teaching? The cycle of fear, right?
Resentment and fear.
Well, like, what if actually, like, what you want is possible? What if you
Well,
actually
that's
came,
why,
right?
and that's why I started with you talking about what you have done, because the truth is that you have done a lot. You have been a working actor. And what the truth of the matter is that every job is hard. Every time you go out, you might you might get a no in any job.
Life is hard. That's my favorite thing when a parent says to me, because we're in Houston now, and somebody local says to me, "Oh my God, you were in New York for 20 plus years. That must have been so hard." I'm like, life is hard.
Right,
Like
right.
it was a dream come true. Yes, it was hard, but life is hard. Like, and you only get it once, so you might as well go for what it is you want.
I love that. Um, what is the process of working with you? Like, I mean, I love to know, like, when someone wants to work with you, it's not mind shifting, I would say, um, takes time. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
uh, I I always think that I don't know exactly how to say this, but self-doubt comes easy. Shifting do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
I do.
I feel like, if we had coaching for the negative, no one, it would be like a one session. Oh, I got that. I'm down that road. But like shifting your mind to being positive and seeing that I can do it, that takes more time.
Yeah.
And so I know that if I say to you, how much time do I need to work with you? There's no probably right answer. But what can people sort of expect? I think is probably the better.
Yeah, I mean, I really meet people where they're at, and mostly it's about, to me, I believe in getting into action. I think that sometimes people want to be, what I call it, preparing to get ready to begin. They want to figure out all the things they need to do in order to begin, and I believe that you kind of build the plane as you fly it.
Mhm.
And that to me is about taking action and starting messy and being willing to fail, because that's how you learn. And so my goal as a coach is to always push you in a way that you know isn't painful, or but it's safe. But I hold you accountable, and I kind of hold your hand along the way, because I think that's how you move through the self-doubt. I always say confidence is not the absence of self-doubt, it's the acceptance of our self-doubt. So moving through actions and going, okay, I can hear the self-doubt in my head, and I pushed through anyway, and I was able to take that action and accomplish this goal. Then once you've done that, it becomes much easier to continue to rinse and repeat that.
I think you said something really important right now, right there, because I think people who seek out help, it need just sometimes they have a lot of confidence. They are in a good place too, and I think it's twofold. There are plenty of people who seek out different types of coaches or therapy, because they're not in a good place, and that's really smart. I'm a firm believer. um, Therapy should be on speed dial.
Yep.
Coaching, you can have many different types of coaches in your life.
Yep. Yep.
But I also believe that if you're in a great place, having a business coach, a life coach, a great therapist is really important too.
Yeah.
um, I I want to say that it isn't the time you go, okay, I'm good, got it. I believe, I work with a business coach. I mean, I knock on wood, like I'm busy, but like the business coach, what I love about it right now is he'll say something, I'll be like, oh my God, I didn't think about it that way. I'm like, okay, let's do that, and I love just that little, it's almost like a tweak in my brain,
Yeah. That's what a
and
coach does. Yeah.
yeah, and it's a way of looking at something. And so, frankly, it isn't that I'm like, wah, 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 like, I'm in a bad place. It's really more about that, just this excitement of doing, something further. And I definitely want to point that out, that, in working with you, you can be in this really great spot and just elevate it,
Yes.
too. And
Yeah. And I think that one of the things why I love working with people outside of the industry, is because having accomplished the level of success I have within the industry, I think I come from other business coaches who maybe have always been entrepreneurs. I have a lot of creative problem solving skills that I've
Mhm.
learned through doing 8 shows a week for 20 years. That I think,
Lack of sleep, or figuring out when to sleep. But
but I
yeah,
also think that
yeah.
there's a lot of people, especially in the arts, who are afraid to put their work out there because they don't have business training and they don't
Mhm.
know how to build relationships with people. They just want to create and they just want to be recognized for their creation. And my goal really is to change the landscape, to see more artists become business people, to see them actually make money and make revenue and be their own bosses and create when they want to create, and even turn, I would love to turn the entire influencer space into artists. I would love to see more artists than Kim Kardashian, like that kind of
I would too.
people.
I would too. And happily, I always say I work with a lot of influencers in that space, but the great news about the influencers I work with, they do have this business minded and how they brand the products, and it's about growing these businesses. Um, so I agree with you. So work on that, make that a project. And I in our time remaining, I do want to talk to you a little bit about you um, and some other things. And that is, tell me a little bit about the podcast that you and your husband do, and where people find it. Because let's just talk personal stuff too.
Yeah. So Stephen, like I said, we just celebrated our 10-year wedding anniversary, and we started our podcast in November, like November before the pandemic, I guess it was. So it's been a little over a year, and really our goal with Broadway Husbands, and you can check it out at broadwayhusbands.com, initially was to normalize LGBTQ marriage and create visibility for that, and also normalize making a living in the arts. And so our catchphrase for the podcast is "Love who you love and love what you do." And
I love
I,
that.
at 13 years old, I would have loved to have had an example that that was possible. And so I really feel like we're doing the thing, being the person we needed when we were younger. And so
Yeah.
that we interview other couples who are making a living in the arts, so not just gay couples but straight couples, and we talk about how they are able to collaborate and work. We also just talk, interview each other and talk about our lives. We interviewed our parents at one point. And
I have a great
so
couple. I'm gonna send you. I have a great couple
okay.
for you.
Okay, great. Yeah, I love to hear how people are able to function as families. One of our big
Mhm.
goals is to become dads, and so I've always
Aw.
thought it was interesting to hear how people are able to navigate, the sort of ups and downs of freelance life and also parenthood and family building and all of that. So we talk about all of that. It's not even really so much about Broadway. It's more about how to live a life
A-
around that.
an
You
authentic
know?
life.
Yeah.
I think that's so important. And I think the great news is that hopefully today, in today's world, we're raising smarter, smarter kids, and
Hmm.
that there is a place that they can find resources and voices. I'm really proud this morning. I did a segment on TV with Stand with Trans, and one of the organizations I work with, and they're having a college fair tonight, and it's all about resources for kids, the LGBTQ community, about when they go to college, and college resources. Not every college is best for the LGBTQ community and trans community and how you identify. And so I'm really proud of this organization for having a college fair in
That's
particular
awesome.
tonight. Yeah, I am so proud of this organization. The couple I'll just say it out there is I work with Rob Smith from the Fluid Project.
Yeah.
So he and his husband would be great.
Yeah.
They're amazing, and their work they do. And I think, the work that Rob does in uh, in the community and trans community as well is so important, because I think, I went to school with Rob, and he'll say the same thing. He hid, in college. I mean, he came out, later, and it's it's such a true story that most people didn't find someone they could talk to or identify, and that's got to stop. I'm old enough, and I look at my kids, and I'm so proud of my kids to know that for the most part they don't know what I'm talking about, you know
Yeah.
and I like that. When I say to
Hmm.
my daughter, have you met anyone to date, and she's like, Mom, everyone I know is gay, and I'm like, okay, great. And I love it. She just cracks me up, but that's whatever, I love it. But, I mean, I adore that, but I think, like, the resources just have to really be out there.
Yeah.
And so I love that you're doing that, because it shows people you can be married, you can have a family. Um, I love that Anderson Cooper yesterday showed his new baby at 1, and I'm like, yes, have a baby. It's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
so important.
Totally.
I love that. All right, so I have to ask, what's your favorite show?
That is such a tough
I
question.
know.
I think if I were as a theater, like a musical theater history like nerd,
Mm-hmm.
Sweeney Todd would be my favorite show. I could listen to that show over and over again and always hear something different. And I think it's one of those brilliant pieces of theater ever created. Um, so that's my typical question. It's Sweeney Todd because I love it. I think they ruined it with the movie, but I love the stage version
I would agree
um
on both
and
accounts.
and but the shows I've seen recently, that's and then most young people who ask me that question want me to say Wicked or want me to say
Hamilton.
um Hamilton. But I tend to love shows like I really loved Fun Home.
Oh,
I
yeah.
love Next to Normal. I've actually done Next to Normal, and doing that show, I just love the way they conquer mental health, and I love the way that it's a brilliantly written piece of theater. So I like the stuff that's a little more intellectual and heavy and has a social, justice moment to it.
Uh-huh.
Even Hamilton is great. It's just super dense for me. I every time I watch it, I'm like, my head is full.
So I want to ask you, what how do you feel about um the theater becoming TV? Like these, uh, the movies, I mean, and they've done it different ways. They've done, let's say, live,
like
that,
Hamilton on Disney Plus.
and then they've done, where they've gone in and just recorded an actual show. I mean, different concepts. Like, how do you feel about that as an actor itself? Like,
I think it's great as long as you're paying everyone. Like as long as everyone's getting paid, I think I'm good with it. What I've seen is like some of these things where they've bought everyone out and they have,
so you are looking at it
unlimited
more like,
streaming.
yeah.
But I just, when you go see a movie, if you go see if you watch Gladiator right now, Russell Crowe's still making money from it. Some of these musicals they're filming and they live in perpetuity, and those people aren't getting paid anymore, and I think that's an issue for me, just
So
integrity wise.
has the union, I guess we're getting off here, but is the union trying to sort of come
Yeah, they
in?
do, they're really good about it now, and of
Okay,
course
because I
SAG.
know that's kind of a new thing. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess I look at it that, I shared with you, my parents are so amazing. I'll say that, when I was a little girl, they took my sister and I to the theater very young. We knew how to behave. It was, I mean, if I could say, like, bug-eyed, like, I just had the theater bug from the beginning, not to be an actor, by the way, FYI, just to be a really good audience member. I am the audience member who does not leave, and I wait for the curtain to keep going up. And as a mom now, I am the one who goes, "Oh my God, that's somebody's kid up there," And I read I read everything in the playbill, where they went to college, you
Oh,
know. I really do, and if I can't read it in the theater, it's on my nightstand. I read it.
wow.
That's the nerd in me. But my parents still in Florida have season tickets. We go to the theater here. I did as a single person. I've been married almost 30 years. We've had season tickets with another couple. We we keep waiting to hear what the shows are going to be here in Detroit. Mask and all, I don't care. I'm going to be in New York Memorial Day weekend, and my husband's like, "What show are we seeing?" I'm like, "Honey, we can go stand." As I like to say, I'm going to go really quick through Times Square to get to the show, but I really don't want to hang out in Times Square. But um,
They're
so
doing, you should look this up. They're doing some really cool outdoor pop-up concerts.
right,
Don't
I'm
miss
going to
those.
go, and I love to, like, in the summer when I'm there. I always go to Bryant Park. Like, I always try and.
Oh, also they're doing Shakespeare in the Park this summer too, so you could do that.
Oh, okay. I just love
Yeah,
that. And I and I agree with you 100% that you don't. I love New York. Most people know that about me. Like, it's the one thing about my husband and I that we really laugh about, that he's probably going to retire somewhere warm and I'm going to retire to New York. We may not be together at that point. Like, we'll be together, but not physically. But I do believe, wherever you live, to support the arts. Like, that is just so important.
yes.
So I love what you are doing. I hope that you'll come back and talk to me and keep me posted.
Yeah,
Um,
anytime.
I actually, what I'd love to do is have you and your husband on. I want to hear more about what you do as a team together, because I'd love
Sure.
to bring voice to that.
Yeah, that would be
So,
wonderful.
but I'm going to send you Rob and Rod's together. If I don't know if you were living and ever went to the Fluid Project when they had a store. It was amazing.
Yeah. No,
So
I didn't go to the store, but I know of them, so yeah.
yeah, so they're a fun couple. You'll like them.
Okay, cool.
Anyway, well, thanks. You can get more information at Bret Shuford, BretShuford.com. It is on the story that's posted here. So happy to meet you.
Thank you for having me.
You might hear from me again, and someone else related to me.
Okay, great.
All right. Take
All right,
care.
take
Have an
care.
amazing day.
Thank you. You too. Bye.
All right, bye-bye.